Okay, hello everyone. Okay, so this is the last program in chapter 3. Okay, and it's the time calculator, right? Okay, so write a program that asks the user to enter a number of seconds and works as follows. There are 60 seconds in a minute. If the number of seconds entered by the user is greater than or equal to 60, the program should display the number of minutes in that many seconds. There are 3,600 seconds in an hour. If the number of seconds entered by the user is greater than or equal to 3,600, the program should display the number of hours in that many seconds. There are 86,400 seconds in a day. If the number of seconds entered by the user is greater than or equal to 86,400, the program should display the number of days in that many seconds. Okay, so this program was actually the exact program in Java, and I did the program over here. And let me just show you something because I wanted to time calculator over here. I pulled it up. So it's a really long program, and you see, as you can see, I have so many if statements in here. I didn't have to do this, but I wanted to break things down. That's why I did this. I wanted to break things down very well, and have them in individual steps. So it's fairly long. I mean, not too long, but compared to what we're about to do in Python now. So I could have done all of this in a few lines, even less than half of it. I could have done it even less than half lines, something like this, or maybe even this, or maybe even that, or maybe even this. I could have done it in like a few lines like that, but I had to. I broke it down just because I wanted to be explicit and try to break things, separate things. And just because the question also said, you see, it's the exact same question in Java. It said if the number of seconds entered by the user is greater than, because of the if statement and all that, I wanted to just go ahead and code it like that. But again, I can code this program in a few lines. We can code this program in a few lines of code. Over here, I separated stuff on different lines. But I could have put them together on one line, put like a couple of lines, let's say 4 or 5 lines together on one line. That's what we're going to do with the Python program. So we can still do it that way. We can still combine stuff together and it'll still work. Although I can actually create a Python program just like this. But we have we can put them together again. So let's go ahead and do that. And it's basically the same thing, but we're trying to squeeze things together on one line. But it makes sense. When we do that, we end up writing code that's tighter, that's efficient, I guess. That runs faster, I guess. And it has a bunch of benefits also. But we can go ahead and do it both ways, separate things out on multiple lines, or put a couple of lines together, and both of them work. But for this one, let's just put some things together and write the program. Okay. All right. But again, it will make sense because I'll be explaining as we go along. All right. So write the program that's going to ask the user to enter the number of seconds and works as follows. So we know the first thing we're going to do is ask for the number of seconds, right? So I'm going to go ahead and call the input function here. And the input function is basically going to ask the user to please enter the number of seconds, like this. Now the input function always returns a string. Whatever you type into this input function is always returned as a string. So in this case, the question is asking the user to enter the number of seconds. If the user goes ahead and enters the number of seconds as a number, the input function is going to return that number as a string. It's going to return that input rate or whatever the user types as a string. But the thing is, we can't use strings in calculations. We can't use strings the way we want to use that number of seconds in this question. So we need to convert the string that the input function is going to return into an integer. Okay, because the user is going to type in an integer. But because the input function always returns a string, we need to go ahead and convert it to an integer before we use it. So because of that, I'm going to go ahead and call the int function, which is basically going to convert everything that the user has typed into an integer. Okay, and when it does that, we need a place to store it. So I'm going to go ahead and create a variable, and I'm going to call it user number of seconds. And user number of seconds is basically going to hold whatever the user has typed here, converted to an integer. Okay, so now we'll end up having, by the time this line runs, we'll end up having user number of seconds stored here, stored in user number of seconds. Okay, so now we can go ahead and use, based on what's in user number of seconds, calculate the days, calculate the hours, the minutes, and the seconds. Okay, now let's pull up a calculator here. All right, so let's start with, now based on how I want to do this program, let's start with basically let's start with the days. Let's start by calculating the days, right? And go all the way down to seconds. So we know that if 86,400 seconds is equal to 1 day. So if someone enters exactly 86,400 and I want to calculate the days, I divide that by 86,400. And that gives me exactly 1 day. If someone types in 86,401, that's going to be exactly 1 day and 1 second. So if I divide this 86,401 by 86,400, I'm going to get 1 day and basically this number of seconds. Okay. All right. So to calculate the days, it's going to be equal to the user number of seconds. Okay. Where is it? User number of seconds. Okay. Divided by. Well, before that, let's go ahead and store. Okay, let's go ahead and store a couple of variables, a couple of values in variables. So let's do that. Or we can actually do that after. So let me just go ahead and do it after. I don't want to make it confusing. So let's just keep it like this. So to calculate the days, okay, we are going to divide the user number of seconds by 86,400. Right, and that's going to give us the days. Okay. If the seconds is less than 86,400, we're going to end up getting 0 point something, right? We just want to know how many exact days we're getting. So we are dividing the user number of seconds by 86,400, and that's going to give us the days, okay? Now, we're not done, okay? We'll finish this program and fix everything. So this is going to give us the days, the exact number of days, okay? I don't care about the remainder. We'll fix it later on. We'll worry about the remainder later on. As a matter of fact, actually, we'll worry about the remainder later on because once we display it, I'll show you why we don't need a remainder. This is just to get the exact number of days. All right. So after you've gotten the exact number of days, now let's go ahead and calculate the hours. Right. Now with hours, we know after we've calculated the exact number of days. Okay. We know we can use the remainder left after this. Okay, so once we divide user number of seconds by 86,400. So over here, for example, if the user typed in 86,405, to get the exact number of days, we divide by 86,400. And we're going to get 1 day, and basically this remainder is the number of seconds left. Okay, so this is all we're interested in. We're interested in just 1. So because of that, we can even go ahead and convert this value into an integer, because all we are concerned is just one day. We don't care about the remainder. We just want to know the exact days from this. So I can even go ahead and convert this to an integer. So that's what I was talking about. I said we don't want to worry about the remainder. We just are interested in the exact days, based on this calculation. We don't care about the remainder. Now the remainder is the seconds left. So let's get the seconds left, and then based on the seconds left, we can go ahead and calculate the hours, right? So to get the remainder of this division, we're going to call user number of seconds. Let's see, user number of seconds modulus 86,400. That's going to give us. So I'm going to put parentheses around it. That's going to give us the remainder of this division here. So that it's going to give us the remainder of this division. Now the remainder is going to be the number of seconds left. So to get the hours, right, we know that there are 3,600 seconds in an hour. So if there are, over here, where is it? So if there are, let's say, if someone, if the, in any calculation, let's say if there are 3,600 and let's say 3,604 seconds left, we divide it by 3,600 to get how many hours. In this case, we're going to get exactly 1 hour, and these are going to be the number of seconds left. So to get the hours, this is the remainder left from getting the days. Okay, these are the seconds left, right? So we are going to divide that seconds left by 3,600, and that's going to give us the hours. And I'm going to surround everything by parentheses. So again, like this. Okay, so again, sorry. Again, we are not interested in the remainder. When we're calculating hours, all we're interested in is just the hour. All we're interested in is just this one here. We don't care about the remainder. The remainder is after getting the hours. The remainder is just the number of seconds left. So now we have the hour over here. So since we don't care about the remainder, we can just go ahead and convert this number also to an integer. Put parentheses around the whole thing, like this. Okay. Now to get the minutes, we know that this calculation gives us the hours, right? The exact hours. To get the remainder, we have to basically find the modulus of this calculation. We have to basically find the modulus. This calculation here. Oops, sorry. This calculation here, modulus 3,600, is going to give us a remainder. Basically, the seconds left. These seconds left here. So basically, the seconds left over here divided by 3,600 gives us the hour. To know this, the remainder of this division here, we have to basically call the same, or basically use the same formula. But instead of dividing, we want to find a remainder. So we are. Oops, hold on. I don't need this. That's for the end. We're going to use the same calculation here. This parenthesis is for the end. This parentheses and this parentheses is for the end. So we are using the same calculation here, but instead of dividing over here, we are using the modulus sign to find a remainder. That's going to be the number of seconds left from this calculation here. And based on the number of seconds left, we can go ahead and divide the number of seconds by 60 seconds, because we know there are 60 seconds in a minute. So based on the number of seconds left from getting the hours, once we get the hours, we know that when we find the modulus of this, or we find the remainder of this division, we're going to get the seconds left. Okay, after finding the hours. So to get the minutes, is going to be the seconds left divided by 60. So let's say after finding the hours, the seconds left were. So after finding the hours, the seconds left over here was, let's say, 62. So 62 divided by, when you want to find the minutes, you divide by 60. You're going to get exactly 1 minute over here, right? So we are interested in the minutes over here. To get the minutes, we're going to divide basically the remainder of. Okay, so let me go ahead and explain again. So basically, this calculation is going to, after finding the days, this is the seconds left after finding the exact days. These are the seconds left, or this is the seconds left. To find the hours, we are dividing the seconds left by 3,600, because there are 3,600 seconds in an hour. So by dividing by 3,600, we are getting the hours, right? We want to, now this is just to get the exact hours. We are not interested in the remainder. That's why we are converting it to an integer. So we are storing only the integer part. Okay, so if it's 1.2, we're only storing 1 in hours, and then the remainder we are getting the remainder. After getting the hours, we are getting the remainder with this calculation here, modulus 3,600, and the remainder is basically the number of seconds left. But to get the minutes, we are dividing the number of seconds left by 60. So if the seconds left was 64, we're dividing by 60 because there are 60 seconds in a minute, and that's going to give us a minute, the exact minute here. We don't care about the remainder, and so we have to divide that by 60 here, surrounded by parentheses. And because we don't care about the remainder over here, we are going to go ahead and call the int function to basically convert the result to an integer. We don't care about the remainder, because now we're going to find the remainder from this division here, and then that's going to be our seconds left. Okay, after we found the minutes, the exact minutes, anything left is the seconds, right? And just to find the seconds is basically the remainder of this division here, this whole thing divided by 60. Okay, we're going to find the remainder of that, and that's going to give us a second. After we found a minute, finding the remainder of this division is going to give us a second. So seconds is going to be equal to this same calculation here, but instead of dividing, we are finding the remainder, which is modulus or modulus, or however you call it, modulus, and that's going to give us the seconds, and we're done. But again, because we're not interested, actually the seconds is going to basically give us whatever seconds that's left. We can go ahead and convert it to an integer if we want, or just leave it. But let's see how it displays, and then we'll we will go ahead and convert it if we have to. So now we're done. All we have to do is just print the values in hours, days, minutes, and seconds. Oops, I don't need a semicolon. So I'm just going to say let's say I'm just going to say days with a comma, hours here with a comma, minutes, and seconds. Now I'll break that line on the next line. I'll break that line to the next line soon. Seconds. Now because this statement is exceeding this line here, this line is like it's like a guideline to help me keep 80 characters on a line. I don't want to exceed 80 characters on a line, so this line is a guideline for me to stick to that standard. It's like a Python standard to do that, so I'm trying to stick by that. So I'm going to go ahead and break this line and another line, and before I break any line in Python, I have to type the backslash and then hit enter. So basically it's going to display this. Now I can go ahead and run it. So this is what I meant by trying to squeeze things together. Okay, now in the other program, the Java program over here, it was a huge long one. We've done several of these together in one line, although we could have broken this apart in separate lines. But doing it this way is also another way of doing it. But we did everything in one line, which still works. We didn't need an if statement or anything. Basically, this is going to go ahead and calculate exactly what we need, because it's going to calculate exactly what we need over here. If the number of seconds is less than 86,400, we know we're going to get 0 days, and then the remainder is going to carry along. We're going to divide the remainder by 3,600 to see if we can get any even hours from there, and then we're going to find a remainder from that, and then divide that by 60 to see if we can get any even minutes from there. And then if we can get any even minutes or not, whatever is left is going to be the seconds. So we are finding the remainder of this division to find the minutes. and that's going to be our seconds. All right, so I hope it makes sense. If not, please comment down below, and I'll do everything to explain or answer them and answer them. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and compile this. Debug this. Let's see what happens. So I'm going to save this where I save all the Python programs. Desktop. And I'll save this as time calculator. Actually, I'll create a new folder first. Then I'll save this as time calculator.py. And let's see if we have any errors. And it looks like we don't. So I'm going to type in just 1 second and see what happens. Oops. All right. Let's see what happened over here. So built-in name error. User number of seconds is not defined. Okay. So I declared a variable. I called it user number of seconds. But over here, I said user number of second. I forgot the S. Same thing here. Same thing here. Okay. So now let's debug it. So I'm going to type in 1 second. And we still have more errors. Let's see. Unsupported operand types for plus, int, and string. Okay, so over here, when you try to concatenate, over here, days basically stores a number. In this case, an integer. When you try to concatenate an integer or even a float to a string, Python is going to complain and say that it cannot. See, when we run this, it said that it cannot. It will say that it cannot. Over here, it says unsupported operand types for plus, int, and string. It cannot basically it's basically all it's saying is cannot concatenate or change or convert the content stored in days to a string and display it. It cannot do that explicitly. So that means we have to go ahead and do it. It cannot do it implicitly. It will complain that it cannot do it by itself. It cannot do it implicitly. So we have to go ahead and do it explicitly ourselves. So that means that we have to go ahead and convert the content of days, hours, minutes, and seconds to a string, and then it wouldn't complain that it wouldn't complain trying to concatenate a string to a string over here. So I'm going to go ahead and call the str function here, and the str function is basically going to convert the content of days to a string. I'm going to do the same thing for hours. So str, the same thing for minutes. I'm basically converting the contents of these variables to a string, and it wouldn't complain trying to concatenate a string to a string. Should be fine with that. So instead of breaking it here, I'm going to break it somewhere here. Before I break it, I type a backslash and I hit enter. And I'll pull this back up like that. All right, so this looks good. All right, so let's debug it, and then I'm going to type in 1 second. Hit enter, and you can see over here it says 0 days, 0 hours, 0 minutes, 1 second. And just put this here. Just to, because sometimes we can have one singular, plural stuff here. Okay, so one more thing. I want to create a new line in between the question, or basically when it tells the user to type in the seconds and when it displays the time. So this is where I ask the question. This is where I do the calculation, the processing, and this is where I do the output. So input to processing output. So right before the output, I'm going to call the print function. And when you call the print function and you type in stuff, you can type in anything here like this. And I run this program again, type in 1 second. It's basically going to display the question, allow me to type one. Display the question. I type in 1 and then display the string over here before displaying the output. And what happens is after it displays the string they've told it to display, it's going to take the cursor to the next line here like this. So it's going to take the cursor to the next line. Anything that follows this string, it's going to display on that next line where the cursor has been moved to. So after displaying, by default, the print function, after printing what you've told it to print, it takes the cursor to the next line here. And then now anything that comes or follows string, which is this, is going to follow where the cursor is. So basically, the print function creates a new line. It prints whatever you want it to print and takes the cursor to the next line, and then anything that follows that statement you've told it to print is going to print to the next line. If you call the print function and type in nothing, you're basically saying that print nothing. So instead of printing this, print nothing, but still take the cursor to the next line, and anything that follows that print statement or that print function comes right after that empty line. So print nothing here, but still take the cursor to the next line and print anything that follows the print function on that line. So basically, by calling the print function with nothing in there, you're basically printing an empty line, taking the cursor to the next line. Anything that follows that empty line is going to display on the next line. So by calling the print function with nothing in there, you are creating an empty line. So I'm going to run this again, type in 1 second, and we have an empty line with the output. So that's what I want. So now let's test the values to see. For 1 second, we're getting 1 second. If I go ahead and I type in 30 seconds, I get 30 seconds. 0 days, 0 hours, 0 minutes, 30 seconds. Let's type in 60 seconds, or even 59 seconds. We're getting 59 seconds. Let's type in 60 seconds and see what happens. Now 60 seconds, we're getting 0 days, 0 hours, 1 minute, 0 seconds. Let's type in 120 seconds. We're getting 2 minutes. If we type in 121 seconds, you should expect 2 minutes and 1 second. So I hit enter and it says 2 minutes, 1 second. If I type in 3,600 seconds, that's the seconds in an hour. So 3,600 seconds, I get 1 hour, 0 minutes, 0 seconds. If I type in 3,600 seconds, I add a 60 for 1 minute, and I add another 1 for 1 second. So I'm going to get 3,661. So 3,661. I'm expecting 1 hour, 1 minute, 1 second. So 1 hour, 1 minute, 1 second. If I type in 86,400 for seconds in a day, I should expect seconds in a day. So 86,400. 1 day, 0 hours, 0 minutes, 0 seconds. Let's see, 86,401. And we're getting 1 day, 1 second. Let's try that. So 1 day, 0 hours, 0 minutes, 1 second. Now let's type in a different number. Let's see here. Let's just type in a random number over here, like this. And then hit enter. That says 2,873 days, 0 hours, 54 minutes, 58 seconds. Yes. So it works. This program works. We had to squeeze everything together over here, but it still works. It's basically doing the math, storing the values in days, hours, minutes, and seconds, and then displaying it. So similar to the Java program here, the only difference over here, I separated stuff on separate lines. But this is in Java though. This is not in Python. But just for those who have watched this Java program and are doing the Python, or those who have already seen this, and well, in the video I also said that I was trying to separate things out, but over here we put everything together. We could have done the same thing for Java too, but these are two different variations. We can break them out, or we can just put them together like this, and they still work. But yeah. All right, so thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions, please comment down below, and I'll do everything to respond to them. Again, thank you very much for watching. Take care of yourselves. Have a great day. Have a great night. Have a good sleep. Have a nice night. Have a nice time. Take care of yourselves again, and I'll see you next time with the next program. All right, bye-bye.